Good evening and welcome back to another episode of The Longing, where today we are once again going to be continuing to read Homer's Iliad. So, let's get going. Oops. First Pylaemenes, great in battle, bled, who sheathed in brass the Paphlagonian's head. Atrides marked him where sublime he stood, fixed in his throat the javelin drank his blood. The faithful Mydon, as he turned from fight, his flying coursers sunk to endless night. A broken rock by Nestor's son was thrown, his bended arm received the falling stone. From his numbed hand the ivory-studded reins dropped in the dust, trailed along the plains. Meanwhile his temples feel a deadly wound. He groans in death, and ponderous sinks to ground. Deep drove his helmet in the sands, and there the head stood fixed, the quivering legs in air, till trampled flat beneath the courser's feet, the youthful victor mounts his empty seat, and bears the prize in triumph to the fleet. Great Hector saw, and raging at the view, pours on the Greeks, the Trojan troops pursue. He fires his host with animating cries, and brings along the furies of the skies. Mars, stern destroyer, and Bellona dread, flame in the front, and thunder at their head. This swells the tumult and the rage of fight, that shakes a spear that casts a dreadful light. Where Hector marched, the god of battles shined, now stormed before him, and now raged behind. Tydides paused amidst his full career, then first the hero's manly breast he knew fear. As when some simple swain his cot forsakes, and wide through fens an unknown journey takes, if chance a swelling brook his passage stay, and foam impervious cross the wanderer's way. Confused he stops, a length of country past, eyes the rough waves, and tired returns at last. Amazed no less the great Tydides stands. He stayed, and turning thus addressed his bands. No wonder, Greeks, that all to Hector yield. Secure of favouring gods he takes the field. His strokes they second and avert our spears. Behold where Mars in mortal arms appears. Retire then, warriors, but sedate and slow. Retire, but with your faces to the foe. Trust not too much your unavailing might. 'Tis not with Troy, but with the gods ye fight. Now near the Greeks the black battalions drew, and first two leaders valiant Hector slew. His force Anchialus and Menesthes found, in every art of glorious war renowned. In the same car the chiefs to combat ride, and fought united, and united died. Struck at the sight the mighty Ajax glows, with thirst of vengeance, and assaults the foes. His massy spear with matchless fury sent, through Amphius's belt and heaving belly went. Amphius Apasus's happy soil possessed, with herds abounding and with treasure blessed. But fate resistless from his country led, the chief to perish at his people's head. Shook with his fall his brazen armour rung, and fierce to seize it conquering Ajax sprung. Around his head an iron tempest reigned, a wood of spears his ample shield sustained. Beneath one foot the yet warm corpse he pressed, and drew his javelin from the bleeding breast. He could no more the showering darts denied, to spoil his glittering arms and plumy pride. Now foes on foes came pouring on the fields, with bristling lances and compacted shields, till in the steely circle straightened round, forced he gives way, and sternly quits the ground. While thus they strive, Tlepolemus the Great, 153, urged by the force of unresisted fate, burns with desire Sarpedon's strength to prove, Alcides' offspring meets the son of Jove. Sheathed in bright arms each adverse chief came on, Jove's great descendant and his greater son. Prepared for combat ere the lance he tossed, the daring Rhodian vents his haughty boast. What brings this Lycian counsellor so far, to tremble at our arms, not mix in war? Know thy vain self, nor let their flattery move, who style thee son of cloud-compelling Jove. How far unlike those chiefs of race divine, how vast the difference of their deeds and thine! Jove got such heroes as my sire, whose soul no fear could daunt, nor earth nor hell control. Troy felt his arm, and yon proud ramparts stand, raised on the ruins of his vengeful hand. With 6 small ships and but a slender train, he left the town a wide deserted plain. But what art thou, who deedless look'st around, while unrevenged thy Lycians bite the ground? Small aid to Troy thy feeble force can be, but wert thou greater, thou must yield to me. Pierced by my spear, to endless darkness go, I make this present to the shades below. The son of Hercules, the Rhodian guide, thus haughty spoke, the Lycian king replied. Thy sire, O prince, o'erturned the Trojan state, whose perjured monarch well deserved his fate. Those heavenly steeds the hero sought so far, false he detained the just reward of war. Nor so content the generous chief defied, with base reproaches and unmanly pride. But you, unworthy the high race you boast, shall raise my glory when thy own is lost. Now meet thy fate, and by Sarpedon slain, add one more ghost to Pluto's gloomy reign. He said, both javelins at an instant flew, both struck, both wounded, but Sarpedon slew. Full in the boaster's neck the weapon stood, transfixed his throat, and drank the vital blood. The soul disdainful seeks the caves of night, and his sealed eyes forever lose the light. Yet not in vain Tlepolemus was thrown, thy angry lance, which piercing to the bone. Sarpedon's thigh had robbed the chief of breath, but Jove was present and forbade the death. Borne from the conflict by his Lycian throng, the wounded hero dragged the lance along. His friends each busied in his several part, though haste or danger had not drawn the dart. The Greeks with slain Tlepolemus retired, whose fall Ulysses viewed with fury fired. Doubtful if Jove's great son he should pursue, or pour his vengeance on the Lycian crew. But heaven and fate the first design withstand, nor this great death must grace Ulysses' hand. Minerva drives him on the Lycian train. Alastor, Cronius, Halius strew the plain. Alcander, Prytanis, Noemon fell, 154, and numbers more his sword had sent to hell. But Hector saw, and furious at the sight, rushed terrible amidst the ranks of fight. With joy Sarpedon viewed the wished relief, and faint lamenting thus implored the chief. O suffer not the foe to bear away my helpless corpse and unassisted prey. If I, unblessed, must see my son no more, my much-loved consort and my native shore, yet let me die in Ilion's sacred wall. Troy, in whose cause I fell, shall mourn my fall. He said, nor Hector to the chief replies, but shakes his plume and fierce to combat flies. Swift as a whirlwind drives the scattering foes, and dyes the ground purple as he goes. Beneath a beech Jove's consecrated shade, his mournful friends divine Sarpedon laid. Brave Pelagon, his favourite chief, was nigh, who wrenched the javelin from his sinewy thigh. The fainting soul stood ready, winged for flight, and o'er his eyeballs swam the shades of night. But Boreas, rising fresh with gentle breath, recalled his spirit from the gates of death. And with that we come quite neatly to the end of the episode. So, Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, or night, no matter what time of day it is. I hope you all have a wonderful one of it. And as always, we will be back tomorrow for more of The Longing. Goodbye.